We have some 28 people here. Yash, Vik, Vishal, Vinod. Amit.
Hey Ankita, sorry to interrupt that. Is this recorded session will be sent to our respective mails or not?
We can totally do that. Do you want to?
Yes, absolutely. I am from India.
Thank you. Thanks, Vinod, for joining.
Sure, okay. Thanks a lot.
Feel free to ask any question during the session.
Sure, Ankita, definitely.
Awesome, guys. I think we should start. It's already 10:34 p.m. and I don't want people from Singapore, India, especially to keep waiting. It's already late. We have some 28 people. So awesome. Guys, thank you so much for joining this video session, this webinar. Really appreciate it. For Akto, it's the first time this is a live session, this is happening. And by the way, so you see three faces over here. I'm Ankita, this is Ankush, this is Fennel. Ankush is my co-founder, Fennel is the product designer at Akto.
Yep.
Firstly, I want to just set the agenda. There are three things we'll cover in the whole 1 hour. One is API Security 101 by Harsh Bothra. Harsh is over here and we'll give a little bit of introductions of each other. Second, I know you guys all know Harsh, so he doesn't need introduction, but he'll introduce a little bit. The second part of the call will be about, we'll give a little bit like 10 minutes sort of a demo of Akto. We just launched Akto open source last week, and we want to show you, how Akto can be used to solve your API security problems. And the third is we want questions, feedback from all of you guys. So we'll keep like good 20-30 minutes just for questions, if you have any. So this is the quick agenda, guys. I also have started the poll. If you want to answer, you can answer anytime you want. All right, let's start. We'll give a little bit of introduction, just me, Ankush and Harsh, just so that we be in time. As I said, I am the co-founder and CEO of Akto. Akto is an instant API security product. Me, Ankush, Abneesh over here also started from day zero, some 14 months back. Akto, we've started building the API security product. We have about like some more than 20 plus customers in US, India. We have users across the world, meaning people who have signed up, people who are trying to do our local deploy. Is there a question? I think Abhimanyu just joined. Okay. So yeah, guys, so we just launched, as I said, last week, Akto open source. We want to tell you a lot about it. We want a lot of contributions from you, feedback from you guys on what we are building. I'll just give it to Ankush, who's my co-founder over here. He'll introduce himself.
Hi guys, thanks for everyone who has joined. My name is Ankush. I am, as Ankita mentioned, I'm co-founder of Akto. I handle all the, I had the tech department over here. I'm the CTO. We just made our product open source. Hope you guys checked it out. You cannot, as a single user, it's hard to see that, but yeah, it's completely scalable. You can give it, as much amount of traffic as you want. We have instances where applications with over 500 million monthly active users are sending all of its traffic to Akto, and Akto can nicely process it. It's very modular as well. You can customize it to your needs. You can plug and play. You can add your own integrations, etc. Again, yeah, very excited to launch this open source. Hope to see a lot of contributions from all of you, or usage from all of you, either way.
Thank you. Thanks, Ankush. I'll give the stage to Harsh now, who's our guest speaker. And also, I think most popular person over here, everyone knows him more than anyone else. Harsh, go ahead. Just I'll just mute the person. Okay. Guys, please, if you can keep yourself on mute until maybe Q&A, keep asking the question on chat though. Sorry, Harsh, start.
Ankita, meanwhile, can you give the screen sharing permissions? I guess it's disabled.
Yeah, I'll give you.
Yeah.
So,
Make him host. Try Harsh now. Can you do it?
just a second. Let me know if you guys can see.
Yes.
Quick.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Like I always start my talk with, so today I'm going to talk about API security 101 or whatever you say it. So it's been a long that I have given a talk. So please, sorry if I make any mistakes. So yeah. All right. So who am I? Looks like somebody wiped out all the information. So this is what happens, right? When you are highly relying on the technology, and then you realize that some attacker wiped all your data. And now, since we are using APIs a lot these days, and this can happen at any time, be it you are going for some important stuff, or in your company, you next day you realize that all your API related data is like gone. So since I have this data like in my memory, I'll tell you who I am. So I work in different roles basically. I am a freelance pen tester. I used to do bug bounty. I create a lot of content. You might have seen a lot of boring talks from my side. I also handle a community with Akto and do like a lot of these things, and everything revolves around security. I have authored 2 books on hacking in the past, and yeah, that's all I guess for the quick introduction. All right. So a very quick agenda for today is like quick overview of API security. Then we are going to talk about various approaches for hacking on APIs. Okay. And after this particular topic, you are going to disappoint a bit, because you will realize that there is no much difference when it comes to testing the APIs versus web application or something like that. But you will be more interested that you were missing a lot because you were fearing that you were not testing APIs. Then some of the top API security vulnerabilities I have found, or according to my experience. And then we are going to talk a bit about like importance of automated scanning in the APIs, how you can automate things, and at last a quick wrap up. All right. Okay. So let's quickly talk about API security, a 20-feet overview. Okay, it can be 10, 100 feet. So I always use 100 feet. So this time I reduce the feet and let's do 20 feet. Okay, so APIs, as you know, application programmable interfaces, or whatever you call, like microservices basically, right? Which enables you to communicate between your backend and front end, and it allows you to execute various actions. Okay, and whenever we talk about technology and something is going to and fro on the network, there is always a chance that somebody is sitting in between, trying to intercept your request and try to do some kind of malicious stuff with your data. Right. So this is what happens in a general web application, that you see that you turn on your proxy through burp suite, you start intercepting things, you see, okay, this is an interesting parameter going on. Let's try for SQL injection. Let's do something like that. Let's try for SQL injection, or maybe, let's try for access control issues or something like that. So similarly, this is what happens for the APIs as well. So before, it was used to a single architecture where all your requests are, so for example, you want to change your profile. Okay, so the complete route will follow. And in a traditional web application, what will happen? You have to go through all the requests to change only one, let's say, name in your particular profile. But to this was basically increasing the server load, latency, and things like that. So APIs were introduced to reduce this problem. And then like REST APIs, SOAP APIs, right now these are like gRPC, GraphQL, and all sort of these new technologies came into picture. Okay, so here what is happening, like if you want to do a specific tasks, for example, I want to delete my email address from my profile, a delete API will be called. Or let's say I want to change my email address, a patch API will be called, right? Or for example, in case of GraphQL, right, you want to perform action, but you are like worried about security of having so many APIs. You are just trying to secure one endpoint, and then you are trying to use that /GraphQL endpoint to query all your things. Like you are trying to let's say update your profile using the same endpoint GraphQL with different query and mutations and things like that. So it's similar to web. The only difference is the architecture has been changed, like how the request and response are going on in the backend is changed. So if you were like receiving some programs on bug bounty or in a pen test or in your organization that it's API security, don't fear. It's same kind of attacks that you used to do in the web, minus the UI based attacks. Okay, because APIs are mostly more on the like programmable interfaces. They are like more on the command line part of the things. They usually don't visualize on a UI unless you have created a pretty nice UI, and then it's more of web again. So if somebody is asking you, let's test some bare APIs, it's just the backend calls that you see in your burp suite, nothing else. So for say attacks like clickjacking, or maybe some missing security headers or something like that, like X content type options or something like that, these are not applicable in terms of APIs. But if you connect a UI, these attacks will again be applicable. So more or less, these two things are same. Just web minus UI equals to API. This is a simple definition for the API security, I would say. So when OWASP top 10 for API released, they simply changed attacks more specific to API, because we are now talking in the programming language more. So in web, we can see directly when access control happen, because on a UI level, we are able to see the data change. So they simply call it broken access control. Now, on the API, you are more of evaluating a specific function. So they called it broken function level access control, or broken object level access control, or things like that. So I personally consider all of them in access control, because I don't see any difference in the web versus API or something like that. Now, if we talk about mobile security, for instance, okay, so if you see the dynamic part of mobile application, again, there is APIs, right? There is no difference. So if you haven't touched any mobile application in your organization, so in a bug bounty or a pen test, static part, definitely you have to learn a lot of things in the static part. They are totally different, because you have to do some code reviews and things like that. But on the request response, on the functionality part, it's totally same as you do in the web or as you do in the APIs. Same for the desktop applications. So anything that calls the API architecture, doesn't matter, the Android device or the web application, these are the UI only. So this is a quick introduction. If you have like any questions so far, please feel free to drop in comments. I'll just take a minute of pause, and then we can go on the next topic. Right, looks good, I guess. Okay, so next comes the approach for hacking APIs. Okay, and as I mentioned, you are going to be disappointed when I will come to this topic, because see, there is no different approach when it comes to hacking the APIs versus web application versus mobile application on the dynamic part. They all are same. All you have to do is to just think more on like how you can impact a business logic of a particular application. Business logic matters a lot for the applications. If you want to score criticals, if you want to score a good bounty, stop chasing for the small vulnerabilities, like how do I find a rate limit bypass, or how do I bypass captcha or something like that. Modern frameworks, modern API architecture take care of everything. So in coming years, you are going to see reuse of gRPC. Okay, and now gRPC is a protocol which will block most of your modern API and web attacks. Okay, so you have to now come up with something interesting in terms of business logic, that how you can use the existing request and circumvent their workflow. So yesterday I was testing an application. There is something called a parameter called time. Okay, that parameter takes the number of hours in iteration of 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, 10 hour, 24 hours, like that. And so this is basically, if you say 2 hours, a dashboard will refresh after every 2 hours. This is what happens. Okay. Now, what if you change it to -1 or 0? Technically, it should not take it, because when I say 0, it will try to basically refresh the dashboard every single second, right? Because the time is now 0. So the application accepted 0, and as a result, every second a new API request was getting hit, and all the users were affected, causing an application level DOS, critical vulnerability. If it was bug bounty, a good program, at least $10,000. It was a pen test, so obviously the pen test is not having any additional incentives, but it was a critical vulnerability in itself, because it was their business logic. Simply we changed 1 to 0. Okay, it took only 1 minute, and it sent a lot of requests. That application immediately went down in 15 minutes. So this is how usually you approach. for finding new vulnerabilities. So again, I would say that when it comes to specifically hacking on APIs, first of all, don't get afraid that these are APIs, we cannot test it, and they are just providing us Postman collection. It's really easy, okay, because you have to now worry less about UI. Just see what you see in your burp suite or whatever tool that you are using for proxying, and you are good. Like so next, I'll quickly talk about some top API security vulnerabilities, which will give you more idea of like a quick approach, like what you can look in terms of finding some valid vulnerabilities in your pen test, bug bounty program, or inside your organizations. Okay, so these are a few most of the widely known or widely found vulnerabilities: mass assignment, broken access controls, race conditions, business logic attacks, and unauthorized access. Okay, so I'll first go with mass assignment. Okay, now mass assignment is like you might be doing it already for two-factor authentication bypass. Okay, so when you do like success true from success false, right? What you are doing is basically you are trying to pick a response header and put it in a request header. Okay, so for example, you sent a two-factor authentication request and the response said status failed. Okay, now what you did, now you sent another request. In that request, you add a new parameter called status success, and then you send it. And if the API is vulnerable, it will say that status successful, and you will be able to log in, like bypassing the 2FA. This is simple for mass assignment. And most of the APIs that are going through the first time security testing are always vulnerable to this type of attack. Okay, a lot of people are like confused between parameter pollution and mass assignment, because mass assignments is something like you are assigning a lot of parameter in mass, but this is what you do in the parameter pollution. So in parameter pollution, what we usually do is we say ID1 equals to ID1, ID equals to 1, and ID equals to 2, and ID equals to 3. So a lot of people think that that is mass assignment. That is not. That is the parameter pollution. Okay, so mass assignment, again, on a quick note, it's very simple and straightforward, that simply see interesting response parameter. Okay, so I recently found a interesting vulnerability where I was able to bypass the premium subscription by simply taking a header a parameter called subscribed true and put it in a request, and then use a burps match and replace rule. So every time whenever the burp will detect that subscription is false in the response, it will automatically change it to subscription true. Okay, and as long as it is getting changed automatically, the UI will start showing you all the premium features and you will be able to use it. Now 5 minutes, a critical vulnerability. Okay, because this is a business logic, that's why they are like getting abused on the financial aspect. That's why they have like using Stripe or PayPal or something like that, and you are able to bypass very simply. So these kind of vulnerabilities hold a real good impact, and if you showcase them in a good way, you can always catch the eye of your organization or your pen test clients or your the programs like on the bug bounty website. And always try to provide the realistic impact, that say an attacker can start abusing your services. You are charging, let's say, $100 for premium service, but I am using it for free. And if you calculate, I let's say this technique is getting leaked, a lot of users are using, now you are getting a loss of, let's say, 100 million or something like that. So these are realistic impacts on their part. And then it's always likely that you will see a bump in your severity. Okay, then it's your broken access control. In terms of API, we usually call it BOLA and BFLA. Okay, so this is something that you usually do, IDOR, pre-escalations. These are the things that we do in this type of attack. So putting it simple, if you are try to access something outside of your privilege boundary. Okay, so when I say privilege boundary, it means that, for example, I as a user Harsh, I should not be able to access the data of organization Akto because I am in organization Harsh. But by any means possible, if I am able to see the data of Akto, delete it, update it, or just there are four operations basically: create, read, update, and delete. CRUD, we call it CRUD, right? So if you are able to perform anything, it's a vulnerability. Okay, so always try to see what are your privilege boundaries. Okay, so for example, I as an admin user can do everything, but the, let's say, Harsh one is a low privilege user and he cannot do anything. He can just view everything. Now try to hit all the endpoints either with the session of Harsh one with the admin session and see like how you are able to figure out if you are able to perform the admin section and something like that. So these kind of cases are usually into a broken access control, and since you might be already doing it a lot in web applications, it's same for APIs, no changes at all. Okay. Then so again, I'll simply put it like web minus UI is API. This should be a new definition for API testing, because this is what it is. If you see actually in the backend, right? If you go to the Facebook, you will see a lot of GraphQL. That's API, right? You will say, no, I am testing web. No, you are testing GraphQL at the backend, right? If you, let's say, go to Akto.io, we are running APIs, for example, right? Then it's APIs again. So yeah. So then the third point comes race conditions, really interesting attack vectors. So whenever you see something like, hey, free user, you can only create X amount of things. Okay. So for example, let's say example of Acto. In Acto, let's say as a free user, you would be able to create only 3 organizations. It's not a restriction. I'm just assuming, okay, 3 organizations per se, or 3 projects. But what if I send a lot of concurrent requests and the application on the back end fails to judge that which comes first, and at the same time executes multiple requests? Okay, this is a concurrency problem. So instead of executing 3 requests only and then blocking rest of the request, the Actos service will basically let's say execute 7 requests. Now instead of 3, I'm able to create 7 projects or 7 organizations, and I'm bypassing their plan. So that's a vulnerability, and it's often found a lot in cases like liking something, or mostly in the restriction field, like you cannot add more than 3 projects, more than 3 organization, cannot invite a lot of users or something like that. So it's really helpful over those cases. If you have any questions so far, I'll just take a pause.
Yeah, there are quite a few questions asked on chat, Harsh.
Yeah, so all right, so I'll just start picking. Okay, I guess Ankush has mentioned something on mass assignment. Okay, so as Ghanshyam said that if web and API are the same, why the top 10 are different? As I mentioned, like the top 10 for the web includes the attacks for your UI based attack as well. So these are the things that you can see. And again, the OWASP top 10 is declared based on the data collection. Okay, so OWASP do a lot of data collection. They have like a panel who go and see that what kind of attacks specifically happened on the web applications. Okay, the applications that are not using any sort of API services like REST, SOAP, or like still using the old web architecture. Okay, which is your general architecture where you will generally see the get and post request only. Okay, so this is your general web architecture where you will usually see get and post, and sometimes you see options, not even options, like some request like let's say trace or something like that. Okay, so there the attacks are slightly different. That's why they count that when we talk about the traditional web architecture, where we are just only talking about get and post request of things like that, then it comes and the kind of attacks that happen is calculated differently. Now when we come to the API, okay, now we are talking about the REST APIs, SOAP APIs, GraphQL, and gRPC. So these are calculated that what kind of attacks are happening on these 4-5 kind of microservice architecture. Okay, so in web it's more of inclusive of everything. In API it's more of like your microservice architecture. So that's why there is a different categorization, if I would say. Web attacks have been prevalent for, let's say, last 10 years or something like that, and the APIs are more into play since last 5 years. So there will always be differentiation in categories, and this is the job of OWASP, right, to segregate everything so that you have a clear picture for everything. So for example, if an organization only supports API, say, okay, so for example, let's say project discovery's nuclei will only give you programmatic access only through the APIs, right? Your web attacks will not be relevant over there, and that's why you have to have a categorization which is just specific to those programmatic access, and that's where your APIs top 10 come into the picture and come handy. I guess that should answer your question, but if still there is more doubts, feel free to reach out to the WASP. I guess they will give you more clarity over there. Okay. how do you suggest to avoid the issue of response returning subscribe true, which might, so there would be one simple solution for this thing is to have a strict server side validation. So what happens when you say that subscribe is true, it's mostly modified on the client side first. Okay. And then if server is sending something, okay, your application should read only the server sent response, not what you are saying on the client. So for example, when I say success equals to true, for instance, it might change on the UI, but as soon as I click on certain functionality, it should again say that you are not logged in, or it's not the premium. So a strict server side validation check is the only thing that would mitigate this issue to the best. Okay. So Devang is saying that race condition mainly occurs in the math related function. I'm not sure like exactly to your question, but it's again specific to the restrictive functionalities where your particular function is handling the concurrent request. I'm not sure if what you mean by math, if you mean by something like math.random or something like that. So if you can be specific, I'll try to answer the question. Okay. Yeah, API gateways, definitely there can be a lot of vulnerabilities, specifically for the application that handles payments. There are always a specific focus on those payment gateways, because there are a lot of things like what kind of nuances that you're using, what are the various, how the payment ID is being generated, or let's say if I am sending a particular parameter, let's say, amount parameter, and with let's say -10. Okay, are you reading that -10 and basically giving me back -10 instead of charging me? So these attacks are still prevalent in those API gateways. So there are two story from here. One, either you haven't safely implemented API payment gateway. Second, the vulnerability exists in the payment gateway itself. Okay, so these are the two different stories that you have to look over here. So if something that exists in the payment gateway itself, you don't have any control. It's on them, right? But in the first case, it's on you because you are not properly configuring it. So again, you have to maybe talk to the team, have a documentation that what are the secure implementation that you are suggesting, how we should validate and things like that. And then majorly how you are sending data from your your API to their API basically. So what happens usually, a handover process happens whenever you do a transaction. Okay, so from your website, a certain call or certain kind of, let's say, a token will be generated that will be sent to, let's say, Razorpay or JustPay or any payment gateway that will say the details of that particular transaction, and that should be secure mainly. Yeah, you can say Devang, that math related option, but it can be again any restrictive functions, I would say. All right, so I'll move to the next one. So business logic attack, as I mentioned earlier in my last slide, that yesterday only that I found that simply by changing refresh rate to 0, every second the API was sending unlimited request, causing a DOS, right? So now the server itself was sending the request. So it was not counting as a malicious thing. It was not blocked by their WAF. They were even using the Akamai, okay, which is one of the most sensitive firewall, which usually blocks you an instant click. So business logic attacks are, you have to basically pay some attention and see that, what is the boundary of this particular feature. Okay, what if let's say it accepts something in string? What if I supply numeric? What if I supply float? So you have to go on that direction to test for business logic basically. Okay, you have to understand that functionality, and you have to like see that, okay, this is how I can circumvent the workflow. Or for example, in Instagram, you can either follow someone or unfollow someone, or let's say block someone. Okay, what if I am able to follow a user who have blocked me or something like that? Or how can I, let's say, see story of a private profile or something like that? So these are like restriction implemented on their business logic. Their business logic say that Harsh, as a user, if you are not following me, Harsh, you cannot see Harsh story. But what if you can see my story, right? A business logic abuse. So that way. The next one is unauthorized access. It is pretty simple. Simply remove all the tokens or supply a forced token and see that you are still able to access something, or try to first the various API endpoint and see if you are able to retrieve the data which you should not be able to see. For the APIs, often it is a problem that you can return the data without the token. So certain endpoints may be left loose while developers are building something, and it is always an ample of opportunity for the attacker to attack on certain endpoints like this. Just a second. Okay. Okay. So coming to the very last part of this slide, automating API security. All right. So I'll tell you a simple story so that you understand that why you should automate API security, or like any security thing, right? So working as a freelance pen tester, or even in the companies, we have to write a lot of status update that we have to usually send to the client regularly. And I was so stupid to always type the updates manually. And then one day, eye opener day, you realize that, hey, on every first update, you always check the same thing. Okay, and you send almost same thing to the client. It's always either a positive result or a negative result. For example, I checked for TLS misconfiguration and I observed that TLS misconfiguration was properly set or it was not set, right? So for the first update, you always do reconnaissance, and then you always tell that, okay, I checked the authentication bypass, I checked for the forget password functionality, I checked for rate limits, I checked for XYZ things, and it's always kind of repetitive. And after doing it for almost 300 plus pen test, I decided to automate it. Okay. And so now, if you are able to automate these simple things, now I am able to save at least 1 hour for writing that stupid update every time that I used to write manually. Okay. And then slowly I updated, like kind of automate all my status update, final report templates and something like that. So now, because I know like broken access control, cross-site scripting, these are a few issues which are always found in a pen test. Okay. So I have to always write the same language again and again with a little modification. So why not, create a template in a way that it gives you multiple options to choose from. So for example, next time when I write my first update, I have a template which will say that, okay, I have checked for TLS misconfiguration on the, and then a prompt where you can put the application's name. And then there will be another prompt which will give you two options. First option, it was vulnerable, it was not vulnerable. Okay, so you can simply select it. Now, instead of taking 1 hour, it takes me only 2 minutes to write one update and makes my life more easier on that part. Similarly, when you are doing pen testing, you are like constantly going through a lot of security test cases. Okay. So for example, my favorite thing to test for cross-site scripting is to like always put XSS word in every field, and then burp suite will automatically change that XSS to XSS payload of my choice. Okay, now I don't have to randomly go and copy paste the XSS payload everywhere. This helps me. This is a small automation. Now, this is how, so for example, you have a unique method, for example, for testing, let's say a broken access control vulnerability. How about if you automate that broken access control vulnerability so that you can run that test case on every API, and even if you get one good hit, it's a benefit for you, right? Because anyways, you will do manual testing, but the automation will always be there to assist you better, right? So yeah, this is, I guess, why you should, I believe that automate testing. But well, clock is ticking, so I hope you enjoy the talk, and I'll be there till the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to jump in and ask. And I guess at last, I guess Ankita can also open like microphone based and unmute yourself and also ask question, or we can interact for a while. But I hope you enjoyed the talk. Kind of very smooth. This is my shortest talk, I would say. So, so yeah. So thanks again, everyone, and then over to you, Ankush and Angita.
Thank you so much, Harsh. Short as buzz, but very impactful. Thank you so much, Harsh. Guys, awesome participation happening on chat. Keep the questions coming. What we can do is we have about some 20 minutes or so, 23 minutes. Why don't we give you a quick demo of Akto? It won't take more than 5-10 minutes, and then and keep asking the questions here on chat itself. We'll keep the demo also very engaging. Let's do that.
Yeah. I'll share my screen. I hope you can see my screen. Yep.
Yes.
Guys, by the way, this is our GitHub repository. Please check it out. Do give it a star if you like it. But yeah, like I have like a set of videos on how to import data into Akto dashboard, and then how to run tests using Akto dashboard. So that's what I'm going to walk you through. If you're following our Twitter channel, good chance you might have seen it already. But anyway, I'll just demo it to you. There is a setup script, by the way. If you go to our GitHub page or on our website or documentation page, you will find a nice one-liner which will install Akto dashboard within your laptop. Now, Akto needs traffic to get started with. There are multiple ways to send traffic. I think the easiest one for all of us is using Burp Suite. There's a Burp Suite extension that you can download from the dashboard itself and install it in your Burp Suite software, and that's pretty much it. It'll connect to your Akto setup automatically. Whatever data you now browse through, or whatever data you capture in your Burp Suite software, that's going to automatically float into your Akto dashboard. Alternatively, you can also use a Postman collection. You can see like a Postman option down there. You can use a Postman collection. If you are deploying it within AWS cloud, you can use nice features like AWS mirroring, etc., where it can capture all the data automatically. And yeah, we're gonna cover like all the tests in the next couple of videos. But once the data is there, it's very easy to run tests. There's a run test button on the top right you saw. You just click on that run test button. It'll present you with 100+ options on what tests you want to run. Just choose those tests, allow it to run. It only takes a few minutes for all the APIs to get checked, to get tested. Yeah, and once you run the test, you will have a nice issue report, issues page like this. You can choose to ignore. You can choose to ignore the issue, or if you think it's a serious one, you can allocate it to your developer, or if you're a bug bounty hunter, get good bounty from it. Let's check out a few cases. I mean, Hertz mentioned quite a few race conditions, especially Bola attacks. Like even in the poll, I could see, Bola attacks are the biggest challenge when it comes to API security. So yeah, let's check out a few how you can exploit Bola attacks through Akto. This so here, yeah. So this is one endpoint. I think, yeah, this is Juice Shop. You must be all aware of it. This is the one endpoint which is supposed to, where you can edit a review. Now we're gonna try out a Bola attack over here. You can see the victim has posted like a review. This is the original review, is the review content. Now what we should do over here to carry out a Bola attack, I mean, of course, you deselect all the tests and choose the exact one, Bola, by changing auth token, or you can just choose all the tests to run. You will need an attacker token. So we'll first go and set the attacker token in the test config. And once you set the attacker token, yeah, you can see you just run the test, and you can see there's a high vulnerability over there, because even with the attacker token, I was able to change victim's review. And if I just refresh the page on Juice Shop and just check it out, you will see the review has been edited. It just says some review edited for the first time. So yeah, this is like a Bola attack. You can automate it through Akto very nicely for all of your APIs. This was just one API. I chose one because I knew this endpoint has a Bola vulnerability. Ideally, in your case, you might just want to run this test on all of your APIs. Akto is very mindful when it checks for Bola attacks. So, if you have an unauthenticated endpoint, Akto will not try to do a Bola attack on that endpoint because it's not even authenticated. You should see, I mean, and there are a few, other good similar checks like these. So you should see a lot of like less false positives. I mean, when we capture traffic, we do a lot of analysis on the traffic. We try to understand what endpoints should be checked for BOLA, and we just try BOLA attacks on only those endpoints. All right, let's.
There are a few questions actually. Let's maybe answer those.
Sure. Yeah, it just simply, I think Harshit asked, it just simply collects all the background requests. We are doing other thing in background, creating the API inventory. No, Harshit, not quite. It just, I mean, whatever traffic is coming in your Burp proxy, it just aggregates that traffic. What you can do is you can launch a spider or a crawler and generate a lot of traffic, and Akto can cover all of that.
Harshit, so that's what you can do in local deploy. We also have option to deploy in your AWS and GCP environment, and there we can get traffic from traffic mirroring functionality of AWS or GCP. We
can send the recordings, guys. No worries there. Someone asked if your web application is not using REST architecture, mass assignments won't be applicable on traditional web architecture. Yeah, I think Harsh replied to this. Okay, got it.
How is this different
from Burp Suite? Because with the extension, we can achieve the same thing. I think your target audience is enterprises, right? Devang, not necessarily. I know Burp Suite is very, very good, by the way. I mean, it has been there for a long time. A lot of people have contributed to it, and some really, really nice plugins are there on Burp Suite. Again, you can like, we are not asking to replace Burp Suite with Akto. We nicely can coexist with Burp Suite. What Burp Suite is very good at is you can tinker with the request in any way, and you can ask Burp Suite to run it in whatever way you want. What we are trying to achieve over here is automate, like just literally one-click testing, API security testing, automate the API security testing as much as possible. If you know an endpoint is insecure or is vulnerable to exploitations, you can go to Burp Suite and you can tinker a lot more on it and kind of try and make it even more critical, like raise the priority from P2 to P0, those kind of things. But what we want over here is like seriously like one click for all the tests. There's one more thing we want to do over here. And you will see that philosophy fitting in, even today and in the next few months as well. Whatever API-related tests you find, security API-related tests you find on open source, we want all of them to be available to our users through the Akto dashboard. So what we have started with are the nuclei tests, but yeah, you can expect to see Zap, FUF, etc. also, being integrated in the Akto dashboard, along with all the Akto developed tests as well. So a lot of tests that we have developed on our own, which we found missing in all of the open source security softwares. All the open source ones we are right now integrating. All right, I think we can move on to the.
Devan, can you mute yourself?
I'll move on to the next video. All right. By the way, guys, along with the source code, even our test library is also open source. So if you go to Akto API security organization and go to the test library, I can just simply post the link. Go to the test library repository. You will see all the Akto tests over here. Right now, you can see 5 categories. We are adding more and more as we speak. But yeah, for example, I can go and check what are all the business logic tests and broken authentication. You can see quite a few. These will definitely ring a bell. JWT, non-algo, invalid signature test, no authentication, etc., etc. You will also see. Let's go to misconfigurations. These kind of this category is basically attributed to let's say unwanted files that are there on an application server. For example, is a Swagger file present on an application server or not? And these are not Java tests. These are YAML templates, specifically nuclei templates. So what I did over here is I I got hold of a very famous checklist repository, which has a list of all the Swagger paths, potential Swagger paths. I put them in a nuclei template, and now you can use, now we can, all of us can use this during our testing through Akto dashboard. I think I have an example of it as well in one of these videos. So we'll take a deeper look at it that time. I think Vishal asked, do you guys also use ML and AI based testing? Yes, Vishal, we do, and we want to extend it a lot more. As I said, I mean, Akto captures a lot of data, a lot of traffic data. We use the traffic data not just to simply make an API inventory, but we want to infer how APIs are dependent on each other, and machine learning can help us a lot over there. So yeah, definitely. I mean, even now, like with all the traffic that we have, we're already doing some sort of things, but you can see a lot of focus on ML and AI in the next, upcoming quarters. All right. Okay. This is a good one. This is BFLA. Let's take a look. So here it's a different thing. Like in Bola, we talk about authorization on objects. Here it's authorization on functionalities. So there are some functionalities that only probably admins should be able to check out. But what if a normal user can also get access to those functionalities? So let's take a look at this example. Again, I think we're going to use Juice Shop only. I know a couple of endpoints over in the Juice Shop application that are affected because of BFLA. So just for this demo purposes, we have limited ourselves to only one specific BFLA test. Let me just go back. So this endpoint, right? Oh, I think we are running it on all the endpoints. Perfect. Let's just check it out. Yeah, I think we ran it on all the endpoints, and yeah, a couple of vulnerabilities came up because we ran BFLA on many endpoints. Let's just check the ones that are affected by changing HTTP method. So here, what we have done is, for example, this particular endpoint, right? API cards endpoint. This is a post endpoint. So here, this is the endpoint which is responsible to take your credit card details and store in the database. Now, just by simply changing the method from post to get, I was able to get all the cards that were saved in the system. So you can see the original request. It just takes card for one user. But if I simply change the method from post to get, I'm able to get all the card details that are saved in the system. And you can see like some 10 plus details coming out. Attacks attacks like these still work today. Vulnerabilities like these still exist today. And again, can nicely be automated through Akto. By the way, I can just take you through this is a live Akto dashboard. This is I'm running the community edition over here. You can check out the test library. I think I'm logged out. Yeah, so you can check out the test library. Over here in the left navigation, you will see a lot of tests over here, some 5 or 6 OS categories, and we are adding more and more. But yeah, you can, like, for example, if I go to this configs directory, you will see a lot of tests that are supposed to find out if any config files are also deployed along with the application server. If you think something can be improved, do click on this contribute to GitHub button, and please make a good revision over here. Submit a PR. We are very, very eagerly looking for PRs. We'll review it very fast and merge it as soon as possible. Once it's merged, it'll be available to the whole world to use. So it'll be great if you can make contributions over here, guys. Ankita, do we have time? Can I take one more vulnerability?
Yes, we have some 5-10 minutes. Guys, keep the questions coming as we are showing the demo. I'm going to answer whatever is there on the chat.
So this is a new vulnerable, like this is a different vulnerable app, Broken Crystals. So here, I mean, again, I have captured all the traffic through burp Akto integration. What we'll do over here is, again, one endpoint I know is vulnerable. to JWT non-algorithm attacks. So we'll just select the one attack that we want to carry out on this one endpoint. But yeah, again, you should carry out this attack on all the endpoints if possible. And yeah, just run the attack, and you can see a high vulnerability over there. If we go and click in the details, you can see in the attempt there is a 401 response, but it made 4 attempts. So one of the attempts resulted in 200 OK. You can let's just see if the last name changed. So last name is now Johnson. It has changed to victim now, and it changed because of the test that Akto ran. And here you can check the authorization token. It does not have the signature in it, and I can verify it even further by going to jwt.io. It says none algorithm. If you look there, it says algorithm is none, and yeah, the server here doesn't handle algorithm equal to none. By the way, if you're implementing this kind of a thing like JWT or authentication or authorization in your backend, please make sure you read all the attacks around JWT, especially checking if the algorithm, no one has tampered with the algorithm, no one is trying to insert their own key through JKU or any other custom header. But yeah, I mean, Akto has quite a few blogs on it. Do check them out. These are the couple of vulnerabilities I wanted to highlight. Again, the total number of tests are 100 plus. I just took 3 of them. Ideally, you should run all the tests on all of your endpoints. I think this is it's 11:24, Ankita. We should.
Yeah, so we should wrap up, but I just want to make sure we have answered all the
I'll take
questions.
care of the questions.
So Devang, you don't like Java, I guess. Sorry. You want to answer that, Ankush?
I'll answer. I'll answer. You keep on going.
Guys, any other question, please feel free to write. We have only 5 minutes left, but I just want to thank you all for participating here. We are, as you know, open source. We are building with the community. We want as much feedback as possible to make the world's best API security platform. Devang, you just said, I've read your code and will contribute in future. Thank you. Thank you so much. We invite all the contributions possible. Only with the community, we can build a very world-class product. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. If you like what we are doing, if you think you want to contribute, I'll anyway send emails to everyone. We would love for you to maybe share about us, about our GitHub page, which is where the product is. Here is the link. If you like it, start using it. Give us GitHub star, raise an issue, fork the repo, do whatever you want to do. It's a free open source project. We are not charging right now. Thank you. Thank you, Shubham. Thank you, Sapkota. Thank you, guys. Any other question? It's just 4 minutes left. We'll stay over here for 4 minutes and take questions.
Guys, if you haven't started the repo, please check it out and start it. I mean, your contribution, even the simple star would help us a great deal.
So maybe Ankita, you can mention about some ongoing things that are planned, so that people interested can start taking part on.
Yeah. So guys, actually, we have a few events coming up. We have in March, we are planning to have sort of 1 week of I don't know if I should call it a hackathon, but we'll plan to have 1 week of event where we'll invite everyone to have contributions in Akto in terms of test, in terms of integrations, whatever you can. And we'll give you prizes, we'll give some rewards for people who are contributing to Akto. I'll announce about that event next week. Keep watching our Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub, everywhere it'll be announced. So this is, I'll just share the link of the GitHub repo, which is our main repo, where we'll announce everything. Awesome. A lot of interesting events are going to come. If you want, you can join our Discord channel, Twitter channel. We have some developers over here who have, put their blood and sweat in building Akto for the last 1 year. It really motivates them if you give them a star, if you use their product. Would love it if you can do that. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are here to answer any of your questions if you want to. And I know it's like really bad time in India, 11:30. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And Saikat, it's Singapore for you. I'm so sorry.
Guys, if any of you guys use Akto and you want to give feedback or you want to learn more about how to use Akto or anything, feel free to join our Discord channels. I'm more than happy, by the way, to come on a Google Meet and explain you also how to use Akto or understand from you what improvements can we do at Akto. In whatever way, do give your feedback. I mean, your feedback only will help us improve the product. It's free. It's gonna be free. The communication will always be free forever. So do help us out. Feedback is like the biggest, it'll be very, very awesome if you try to use it and give us feedback. Best outcome ever.
Oh, Harsh's first API security talk. Awesome.
Yep. I like Ankita wanted it to be more segregated on API security. So yeah, I hope like I bored everyone and I'll keep boring in the future as well. So thanks again for listening like quite patiently. And I hope like I was able to give some insights, but feel free to reach out on the Twitter. This time I didn't add the promotion slides of my Twitter and introduction. So I guess less boring compared to the previous times. Yeah.
No, not boring at all, Harsh. We'll all remember web minus UI is API. That was the key line. Thank you. Devang says, Harsh, I loved your talk. Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, genius. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks, guys.
guys.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks.
Have a good day. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Harsh. Bye.
Bye bye.